It's not for people like you and me. It is for the politician. And I need the grave. No fuck with me hand. I find some of them living too long. And every 5 years it's the same old song. Some of them dead just shame to lie down. So I prepare for them a burial ground. Rolly, my first grave for you. The joy in my hand, put them in love with me. All of them useless politician. Only making a numbers in my life. I refuse body. I make them Muslim, them to dignity. Fix my life and face and then maybe a hand. It's time to move trash from out of the land. But I take in my time with me. I personally will prepare his body. Make sure you have a saddle and grin on his face. That's all he does do. That man is a waste. Buried in the back of my cemetery. Turn it upside down. He face I can see. But what you know is grave digger to cover him. Not with the hand, but good for money. Gypsy, political grasshopper. I remain liberty cause he's my brother. But my cousin is swinging for what to find. It's like my help me to make up your mind. Pretty Jara, Rasta City. I know they get glad to get the body. Pressy on the come down for the sea. Drink together, watch who can help me. One quick sacrifice, with every ring and we magic living life. You are the gold for the man, resemble and strong. I come seated red and lean like that
Yes, indeed. I thought it was important for us to go to the zone of nostalgia. Nostalgia. Yes, indeed. And let us not forget where we came from. Too often we are considered to be a calypso society, a 7 days society. And we must understand that there must be a level and standard that generates a consistency, because if we have identified something as evil, and whether it disguises itself, as is the case today, as wolves in sheep clothing, projecting, of course, the wolf clothing, or more correctly, the sheep clothing, projecting the sheep clothing to suggest that they are sheep, we know that they are blasted wolves and only waiting the opportunity to what? Devour us. I've heard too much in recent times of persons here in East Port of Spain, Lavatil, Betham, and of course, nurtured and guided and proliferated by the tenuous, just as how when they were in government, the tenuous PNM opposition. They are the ones that are fermenting this. Why you can draw that inevitable and inescapable conclusion is very simple. Who will benefit? Who bump in the gum? Who are silent when, of course, others vicariously, conscientiously, or otherwise are doing their work for them once the government is not looking good? Let us not waste time. Let us stay focused and let us understand that the evil, the existential threat to Trinidad and Tobago's survival as a society, as an economy, has always been, and the reason for them not in office today is because of their poor performance at the level of the government. Their inability to be transparent, their inability to communicate with the people, their inability to manage the financial or fiscal resources of the country, their reckless and brutal implementation of measures to further emasculate and deepen and exacerbate the unemployment and the poverty situation in the country, quite apart from other macro indicators such as depletion of our foreign exchange resources, the inability to diversify the economy, the fact that they engage in deficit budgeting, and of course the blatant and unadulterated and without any excuse or a modicum of repentance, telling us that they are not going to interfere with property tax or engage in property tax because it is a dastard tax. Why is it opposition? And come into government and sees that without any explanation. You see, I am taking my time tonight to identify that because today on the ground report, I was incensed. And of course, part of the topic was whether or not the government is doing a good job in explaining to the people some of the measures that they would have taken and is taking because of the circumstance that the country would have been. You see, I don't want the integrity. I don't want the veracity. I don't want the moral and ethical high ground that this government came into office and are doing it. Yes, I accept that it is from a selfish perspective as well. Because you see, I am part and parcel of it in the context of the Love Party being part of the coalition of interests. And if it is the main government or the main party is not doing a good job of explaining as to why measures are being taken, Lennox Smith has a duty and responsibility to explain why, particularly when our carriage, our wagon is attached to the present administration at a very high level. In other words, we are joined at the hip. Siamese, we are Siamese. We are joined at the hip. And what the government does will reflect on us. And we have a duty to not to remain silent, but to explain if the government is unable so to do. Because today that was the discussion. And that is why, of course, I started with this particular, what I consider to be appropriate characterization and explanation in song by Lady Gypsy of what we just came from. Last night I told you, and it was not by accident, to ask yourself the question, what would the PNM have done if they were returned to office on the 28th of April last year? None of them could answer. And they would come, of course, with these fly-by-night, superficial, superfluous statement like the Revenue Authority and so on that nobody wanted. And of course, property tax that they said they will never engage. But then the argument they have projected is that the UNC said, at the coalition of interests, that they would reduce fines for traffic violations. And they make that kind of comparison. One, in the case of the P&M and the property tax, you have no choice. Understand that. You have no choice. Read my lips. You have no choice with the property tax. Once you own a property or occupy a property, you have a minimum, whatever it is, you have minimum of $500 you must pay every year, annually. How dare those opponents to the government and who would like to see the government fail. They don't have a duty to tell you that whether the fines were pursued or imposed or the status quo would have remained. In other words, that it either remained how they met it, and instead of crying it up, increasing it. Whether that is so or not, the fact of the matter is that you have a choice. Do not have your vehicles on the road not properly roadworthy according to the rules and the laws. In the case of property tax, you have no choice, you have to pay. But let us get down to the reality that if on the campaign trail it was said that they will reduce those fines, we have already seen that is almost irrelevant because you have a choice. And whether the fines stayed as they were, you still have a choice. And whether they reduce it, you still have a choice. So, to make it a storm in a teacup, or gravitate that to a storm, a pest, a tempest. I almost said a pestilence because the PNM really is a political pestilence. Yeah, the disease. So to take it to the level of a tempest, a storm, a tsunami, a hurricane, a cyclone, is not being fair. And of course, the actual argument for increase does not in any way shake the integrity, the sincerity of the present administration, particularly led by the present Prime Minister, Kamala Persad-Bissessar. She has shown a consistency of delivery and stick-to-itiveness to what she would have said she would do, even though time and other nuances might militate the way it is done, one, the extent to which it is done, and the precision or the sticking to the promise as was originally projected or uttered. But the fact is, you can see that there is a genuine attempt to be honest, not with the PNM. Rowley was a blatant liar, a deceiver. He will tell you one thing now and then literally cuss you. And when, of course, things are blatant, like in the case of the intervention he made with respect to the shortlist to go to the parliament through the president at the time, Paula May Weeks, he lied and said that he had used what I consider to be circumlocutive talk, roundabout talk, deceptive talk to try to say in the beginning that it's not he, and yet still it is he. But then afterwards had to say that it was him, after, of course, she was almost impeached through the strategy of the then opposition led by Kamala Persad-Bissessar, now Prime Minister. Let's go to the lines. Professor, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Let me see if we are just a minute. All right, just a minute. Stay there, caller. Go ahead. You hear me now? You hear me loud and clear?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, my friend. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Lennox.
Yes, man. Hey. Yes, Gandhi, the original Gandhi. Yes.
Right. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes.
Someone had mentioned that this regime wouldn't last 12 months.
Yes.
So there were supporters in all various workplaces who have been nailed there and cannot be removed. So they're trying to do everything to bring down this regime before the 12 months up. Like one part, they wanted to find out where they were getting money. It ain't no thing to me that they didn't ask the whole government to resign and only 3 minutes. And before I came onto this program, I was listening to another program on Synergy TV,
Mm-hmm.
and I I just text them a message that it's better we bring back the PNM and rent we own house. I am satisfied I don't have to rent my own house, which I take my 2 hand and give it. That is good enough for me where this regime is concerned. And let the people who exempted themselves, who was renting high-rise building and was exempted,
Mm-hmm.
let them pay the price now. I am satisfied with that. Thanks very much, sir.
I hear you, my friend.
I go.
I hear you. I hear you.
Listen, I watching you on the TV.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. And it makes sense, of course, and it is consistent with my argument that the integrity of Kamala Persad-Bissessar and by extension, of course, the coalition of interests and the UNC cannot be questioned. And I'm saying so because you may believe that there's a disconnect between what I am arguing and what the caller just said. But let me tell you how there's a nexus, how there's a connection. You see, in order to find money to satisfy, of course, all of the multiple and many parts, at times, services that the government must execute as a government. You see how they think. There's a pattern of thinking. You have people who have been enjoying the benefits of their actual rent over many years. The PNM had the option of taxing them people too, No, but it didn't. And why was that a better idea than taxing everybody with property tax? Whether you have house on it, whether you're renting from you're renting your premises, wherever it is, you have to pay tax. It doesn't matter. Once you have property, once you occupy property, once you have land, once you have building and land, and so on and so forth. But the UNC said, listen, those who have been renting their premises, actually renting, is not no theory, not no make believe, not no pie in the sky, not no assumed, they're actually renting, then they impose a levy or a tax on you because you have a source of income and therefore share a small portion of it with the government because they have inherited, as we said last night, a major, not just deficit, a major, not just debt burden, a major, not just outstanding debts locally and to businessmen and companies and so on. And then, of course, a major debt to government employees, which the last government, ride roughshod, go into parliament and say, I'm giving you 5%, take it or leave it, and that kind of thing, without any negotiation or any say. And then, of course, because you have been hoodwinked, or put another way, you are put in a state of Hobson's choice. You have no choice. Take it or leave it. And if you ain't take it, well, too bad for you, because I am going to, by virtue of attrition, I'm going to take you for a ride, and the more you get pressure, the most likely you will come to the table and take what I give you. The UNC and the coalition didn't do that. They said, okay, they calculated and knew it was 10%, and they delivered. They delivered. There are certain nuances, but they delivered, by and large. Let's go to the line. A pleasant good night, or welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night to you, Uncle Lennox, and to all the listeners.
Same to you.
Please share with the 40,000
Yes,
to
man.
reach up
Yes, man.
and share what's going on. Uncle Lennox, there's three things I want to say. I stand with my Prime Minister, the Honorable Ms. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, and we have one thing in your conversation tonight, in negotiation. You didn't say when Keith Rowley, say, all of get all the money, all of go home. And he not
All of those threats, those were threats for people own money that they work for, constitutionally protected. They didn't care. They didn't care. But go ahead, my friend. A nice point that you raised there.
Yeah, so I want the listeners to know that he threatened workers and he shut them up. And he said, when the UNC signed the 12%, Rohan Sananan said they're looking for investor for the port, Tell me if I'm going wrong, Anything I'm going wrong, switch off the phone, right? And he said, talk about the money for the workers. Rowley and Sananan said they're looking for investors. When the police service, right, the association, he ended up in the Senate, and then he reached TT Post. Tell me if I'm going wrong, And then when Benjamin come on his scene, and Madam, Miss Your Honor, Miss right? No disrespect, my apologies. When she came, they push it on her throat to sign. So Now we find out, and then we see that that piece of missing puzzle there, if it make any sense to that person. Because the way they was treating it, the association sign off quick and quietly, right? When the money was paid for 3 years, some union who signed off for whatever they give them, what it had to take, while $3 billion was accounted, was missing on a social media or electronic glitch. And they put the Auditor General and distribute. Yeah? They tell them what to get them, don't hush them out. That time the CPO, they could not say nothing. Because the government, the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister was negotiated. Tell me what's going wrong, you know? What them say, the CPO, they sign off on it. And then they wait for the money, that's the nice thing about it. Because I see a girl, what Crystal something, flare up and talking about the water money. It's a simple way that the Honorable Finance Minister can pay them, you know, because you don't tell them they will get the money, but not in cash. Just pay them in bonds, write on the bonds, and 2031 it will materialize. Later go back and vote the PNM, because you know why? They can tell me they want to trap my Prime Minister and she cabinet and say the PNM is good. Eh? And the PNM, they don't go back to the PNM. They don't go because the track record of the PNM, they care for workers and they care for them. And then they commit political suicide because here what's going on. Ask for stock comments. If it's true, $500 million in contract among key family. Ask Faris how much money he get. Ask Young how much he better get to excuse all. Ask Penny and Marvin and Rohan. We continue going down the road and ask Brian Manning. He go, all of a sudden he come, do $100 million investment. See where the supporters and them is. All I want to go back to that. It's a free democracy, but don't come with no hijacking and blackmail and threatening words, because here what's going on. The majority of the citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago know better than that, because who in the kitchen is feeling heat, and all you talking about, and Uncle Lennox talking about negotiation and pricing. Then we talk about the TNTech increase for the RIC, who is a PNM appointed board, say the dependent, and they get them what they want. Uncle Lennox, at the same time, calculate that where the minimum units, where they put, as they put on the light, your minimum bill is $155. And if you want the full water, the water running slow, one glass of water, your bill goes up by $10. Just to put on the light, you need to go and get some water to drink. And if you cross how much units, it reaches the next category of a higher price per unit. It calculated by units and the scale, so that when it go up, you only have 20, 30, 40 units, and after that you pay double and it's tripling, and it reaches a higher pay. So the minimum a household that be paying is close to $500 per month, and all of it had work, all of it had employment, all of it had an economy which was moving robust, or if foreign investors, a stagnated economy where people was getting work. And CPF workers, you hear they had work, but the contractor run away with the money. You hear about a rural development program, and a minister question to answer today. What it is wrong with other people? And the workers, yes, look at the PSA. They stand tooth and nail against Rowley. And kudos to comrade who in the Senate. And he stand up. Comrade Leroy Batty stand up with the workers while the PNM fraction and the TSA was fighting him down to get take. But no, the PNM know they are nothing to talk about, to tell the citizen, and they call it for resigning. Penny is supposed to resign because Ashton Ford and what the next one in Lavantil, Robert told them mobile Lavantil borough council.
I don't even want to call that name because he's so innocuous, so insignificant, so ghost-like. He cannot be seen and never speaking. But go ahead.
Yeah, he called for Penny to go on, which is true. And Penny knows she has that number. Talking about weak. But when all come with false evidence and all our questions to answer this question, Penny, you is the leader. Where all they get that money to build Balize house? And where is the audit finance for all the corporation for the last 3 years? Stop making mischief. And all what they call civil unrest and disobedience? No way. Because here what's going on. When the people in Arima get killed, the family, what were the police, the young police who get killed in Thailand, that's the other day. He go on to serve execute a warrant. The people in the house are gone. They where the bullet come from, they say, that gone quiet. Because you know why? Is a police get killed. But you hear nothing on that? Who come out and say that the family is supposed to have questions to answer and the investigation when I reach? But you see, when we is our unfair society in the tropics, all our leaders get dark and we just have to go in the shade. So things are shady one side. So Penny, what I would like you to answer, right? The dragon gas, all they're fighting about, all they hear the news, a good night, Uncle Lennox. Let me see you answer my question tonight.
I hear you, my friend. I hear you, my friend. Yes, indeed. Of course, don't forget that the topic tonight is, of course, we are taking a journey to the recent past. A journey to the recent past. We are being nostalgic. You see, because it's important, otherwise we lose focus as the propaganda machinery of the opponents. I'm including, of course, whether people are directly or indirectly connected to the PNM. But of course, it's the main opposition that is spearheading this attack. We saw it, of course, under the NAR, as I said this morning. We saw it also when the UNC under Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the partnership was in office between 2010 and 2015. So we know their modus operandi. And we have to be fools to know what they are. And because they are camouflaging, utilizing, of course, the analogy that I opened with, and that is to say, they have sheep clothing, but are really vicious, wicked, diabolical, incompetent wolves who we must now divest. We must now expose. We must say to you who would want or is being tempted to go on that bandwagon, that the outcome of that will be the devouring of your good selves, because you suddenly believe, or you suddenly have some kind of sympathy for those who will eventually devour us if we only give them an opportunity, as we have seen over the 10 years prior to the 28th of April 2025. Let us not waste time. And let us get down into, of course, some of the specifics. The last callers have, of course, identified some of them. It's because it's important for a fellow like me who has attached, as I said, and I cannot overemphasize his political and, of course, a future and integrity, and, of course, the efforts that we are making in places like East Port of Spain, Laventille, Beetham, Sealats, etc., of course, and along the East-West Corridor by extension, in order for others to come to the fore and make the significant argument so as to jettison, so as to generate the purge, the catharsis from the, as a consequence of the narrative that suddenly the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bisesa must be now characterized as how the PNM was and is. Yes, wolves in sheep clothing. That is what the PNM is engaging in. And we must know that. And every time, that is why I theme tonight's program, be discerning, be wise, be conscious, be observant. Otherwise, they devour you. Call protest and you're gone following the narrative, and they're trying at the same time to have you forget what they did in 10 years. Well, Tobago didn't forget, you know. Tobago did not forget, and that was 21 years. 21 years. Tobago didn't forget and will not forget. Why must we in Trinidad give them any political or sympathetic oxygen to do us harm, to endanger us? That macabre group of vipers, political vipers, and indeed political cobos, vultures that will pick on any political carcass to get some kind of credence or some kind of recognition or some kind of attention from the public. And I mind you, we know that they have their conspirators, colleagues in the media, on social media, etc. We know that too. You see, because we saw it under the NAR. We saw it, of course, as I said, with respect to Kamala Prasad Bisesa in the previous incarnation of the UNC-led government. And we are seeing it manifesting itself now. But because they are so neophytic, they are so wet behind the ears, a bunch of unseasoned but brutal and raw. They have exposed themselves, and we can see them for who they are without having to wipe any yampi, even though they pretend that they are not what, when the confrontation comes. By doing what? By projecting that others are doing what they would have been doing as a matter of course, as a matter of default. So let us get back to some specifics. The fact of the matter is this, that when they would have projected to the population foreign policy bad associated with the Americans, CARICOM is in jeopardy because of the present government, etc. But let's go to the line first. President, good night, welcome.
Good night, Lennox, and to all your listeners. This is Diego Martin. What we talking? Nostalgia?
Yes, Nostalgia, we're going backwards because we don't want the people to forget
Right.
what the
And you know
PNM is
where I'm
capable
coming
of,
from.
and in their sheep, in their wolf and sheep clothing disposition at this point in time, pretending that they have sanitized themselves and want us to blur, and want to lure us to do us evil. Go ahead, my friend.
A couple of things. Third floor of Balize House. I hear they're going to name it the Akil Chamber Suite. You hear that one?
Repeat that, Mayor.
The third floor of Balize House
Uh-huh.
going to be named after Akil Chambers, the Akil Chamber Suite.
Akil Chambers. I hear you.
You,
I
you
hear you. I
understand?
hear you. You are this
They're not
Akil Chambers. But go ahead, my friend. You're in the right place.
they won't name it Red Coat activity. That recent Akil Chambers, we have to resolve that issue.
I hear you.
Must. And nobody is well. I can't say nobody because I beaten it like a boboli for
Right.
people to understand. It is a simple case to be resolved. Most of the people are wrong.
Yes.
The two police officers who investigated, they haven't gone to the great beyond. They still are wrong. They
Yes.
might be quiet. They might have been paid off. But the coroner said the police investigation was complicit. Who paid them off to remain quiet? They're still around. Why are they so quiet? Because that going back directly to the PNFI national movement through a former prime minister and his first cousin, key players in it. His first cousin was one of the main witness, and another fellow who has gone to Canada,
Yes.
who facilitated him to go to Canada out of sight, out of mind. It is time we bring justice, cold case or no cold case. It was revealed in Parliament during the Zoso, and nobody had taken up that. Everybody want privilege committee. That's a easy privilege committee. I sure everybody will participate. We want it, and the police is complicit. They must do that. The second issue,
Go ahead.
as I say, must. Chris must list. You remember him?
Yes,
Who has
yes, yes.
been
That
charged?
blogger, that blogger that was, of course,
All right.
charged
Well, yeah,
for
right.
sedition. Yes, go ahead.
He has a new release, right? And he's saying he's attended court virtually about 20 times, and it has adjourned for several reasons: change of prosecutor, change of judge, everything. But he said one of the alarming thing is the arresting police officer has only turned up once for that. Why is he hiding? Why are you going? You're bandy man. You're telling me you had to attend court. You attended court virtually out of Canada. But one of the revealing thing, he said the former prime minister was the person who gave instruction to the police to charge him with sedition. And he has said there was collusion between the Express and the leadership of the country to put a bullseye on his back. When they printed a false story on a front page and they retracted it the next day with fine prints at the back page, meaning that they told a lie that he was not helping the police and he was not going around with
It was
the
not
police.
cooperating. Yes, yes. Mhm.
Not with police identified. He said it was a lie. He said he's going after the Express. He said he needs some money like Max and House. You understand? And it's
Yes,
a winnable case because if they printed all that lie, they have to account for it. Where they got the lies from, they can't keep it quiet
yeah.
like the abduction of what they call him Brent
Brent
Thomas.
Thomas. Yes,
We spending so much money as taxpayers to defend a case that is a simple thing. Just come out, DCP, come out, DCP up I and tell us who tell you to go abroad. You understand?
yes.
And and what I like to see, I think I am seeing that this UNC-led government has learned from their mistake. They just elevated a permanent secretary to be the head of the public service, a young lady by the name of Natasha Barrow. And what the prime minister says, she can't fire nobody. Is the head of the public service has to do it because you could identify. I have identified a number of them, permanent secretary, who would create hurdles to protect the PNM. And
Yes.
it is easy to identify them. Go back to the joint finance committee meeting, and you will see the permanent secretary who was making available information for the ministers to respond to questions. The ministers in that setting is only good as the information being given to them by the permanent secretaries. They are the accounting officers. They have been there since thy kingdom come. So when a question is asked, so everybody who's covering up with respect to permanent secretary, you could identify them and put a target on them because it's the public service could make or break the government, not carrying out the functions that it is, not carrying out the mandate of the electorate. So we have to look at that closely, closely, closely. You
Oh
remember?
yes. Oh yes.
Remember, do diligence. The former finance permanent secretary who advised them badly and then went on the board of NICO and things like that. And the next one is that the Honorable Monilal gave a very, very good synopsis of his overseas visits with respect to the energy sector. I was, well, put it, I was optimistically pleased with the outcome of his visit and what he had to tell us. So we look like the supporters of the UNC and the coalition has to stay put, understand the PNM trolls is coming, basically throwing everything now. They have on their side the two dailies, basically, what do you call them? The Express and the
Guardian.
yeah, they are the mouthpiece of the PNM, and the PNM supporters. That is where they get news from. Those are going to be supporters supporting the PNM until they're dead, and they are accustomed. They have grown up with a guardian under the arm. Probably can't even understand the source, but they'll get the information for them. So we have to live with that, and that is a challenge. Each and every one of us who gets on the radio, like myself, have to clap back
That's right.
because the HGC, we know there's lots of corruption there. You know, at the same time, sort of corruption in St. Vincent with what do you call him, Gonzales?
Gonzalez, yes.
How they use the house in
Former
military
former prime minister who was defeated.
right. It's the same sort of thing. I was listening to a parliamentary debate, and it's the same corruption there. Like they're like all them prime ministers with him carry come, birds of a feather, using state funds to enrich themselves. I go on, Lennox.
Thank you
Nice. I
very
didn't
much.
open the button today. I
Yes,
come in
man.
late.
Yeah. But
All right.
you can be nice. Third man. Yeah, yes, indeed. And I want to pause to say that I am very, 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 pleased of the level and the high level at that of conversation that callers, calling, and able to engage in. You see, because it demonstrates a level of seriousness, a level of understanding that we all are patriots and we are in this crucible called Trinidad and Tobago together, and we have challenges and difficulties, but we must find the right mechanism or the right formula to emerge out of it. And clearly, the PNM is the existential force that debilitates against that then as it is today. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
Good night, Mr. Smith.
Good night, my friend.
Yeah, first of all, how's
Yes.
going, boy?
He going all right. He going all right. He going all right.
Right.
He going all right. Yeah.
Right, most important.
Yes.
Yeah, do you know something that Trinidadian had to ask themselves?
Yes.
We had to come to the conclusion before we say anything. Why we vote out the PNM on the 20th April, boy, 2025? What is the reason why we voted on the PNM? There we had to go first. And all this rigmarole talking about fine and this and that. We have to understand why we vote them out first. What is the beginning of that? What would you say to that, Mr. Smith?
No, that is why I thought we should have this frank discussion tonight and make it part and parcel of the menu as we go forward, because the PNM is attempting to sanitize themselves, telling us somehow by focusing maybe on some of the flaws, if you want to call it that, or some of the mistakes, if you want to call it that. But they cannot obfuscate and convince any rational thinking Trinbagonian that the UNC and Kamala Prasad Bisesa are not concerned, or put another way, their agenda is for the development of Trinidad and Tobago. They are trying to tell us it is not so. We know it is so, and therefore we have a duty to say what they are, and of course make certain that those who may be having a tendency or listening to them and they're getting mixed signals or mixed senses in their heads, we must disabuse that. But go ahead, my friend.
Yes. So then we must say that is the UNC that tell us about the closing down of Petro Trinidad. So it's not we as our people, we know. But we listen to what the UNC say and UNC lie. Right? So when Romney come out and say during COVID, he couldn't fix no pothole because he put the priority on COVID first. Is the UNC that tell us that, or is the Prime Minister at the time told us that? Right? Because I could remember he that tell us that. Right? I could remember when the judge said in both should be investigated instead of the Auditor General. I know that they closed down ArcelorMittal, right? I know it's them that make sure the cocoa and the coffee gone, rice and all different things, citrus and whatnot, right? So I know what the PNM do. So how the PNM could come and tell me now about what the UNC do and what the UNC did, when I have the knowledge in myself to know what they did, they can fool me. So me depending on the UNC to tell me nothing. I know what the PNM did, and that's why we put them out in the first place. So this have nothing to do with the UNC, right? Look at listen to the senators in the Senate voting against a bill that could secure the life of our citizens in certain communities.
Boy, oh boy,
But
oh boy,
what,
that to
right?
me is the cardinal sin of the PNM.
It is.
Yeah, cardinal.
Yeah.
There's no pardon for that. It is so egregious. There could be no pardon for that. But go ahead, my friend. You're on the right track.
Yes.
Yes.
And then listen, what dangerous with that? They are saying that the UNC didn't consult nobody. But how the UNC will have to consult anybody when they're fighting against the crime that's taking place before our eyes? So they are fighting against the crime. They will have to consult me to put something in place to defend me. The person who was to do the consulting was the independent senators, as we will call them, because they haven't a vote on the bill. So if you want to have a vote on the bill, you should talk to some people around in the community that you believe they might put the ZOSO bills on. Because if you have consult nobody, how you coming to make a decision for me? And voting against a bill that I believe the government trying to protect my life. So you should do the consultation before you come to Parliament to vote against it. Because you voting against something what I want. Because I saw they was talking to a woman in Lavanti. She says she's a PNM until she dead. But she says she support the bill. Although that she says she will not vote for the UNC, but Kamala Bisesa trying to protect their life. And she was even saying that she find the parents supposed to be charged because the parents know what the children doing. That's what she was saying. which is a good assessment that she's making. I can't be against she if she don't want to vote for the UNC, but she says she support the bill because she life at stake. Right? And this is the whole point. So how these senators could come to the conclusion that the UNC have consult nobody, and that is the reason why they vote against the bill. No consultation. Because even Penny said the same thing. They consult nobody. I had talking that with Ian Allen that the government and consult nobody. What consultation you want the government to do? Look at it right now. If, well, I say these independent senators maybe don't listen to Ian Allen because Ian Allen bringing so much debt taking place in this country up and down the east-west corridor, and that ringing a bell in you. Look at the protest these people protesting. It's only now all they want to protest. Who this summary is so bad, right? Look at them 4 people that lost their life in that pipeline. That is ring a bell on we as a citizen. I just had nightmare with that still. Because I just study myself in that situation, boy. To wait on my death, boy, in oil. I can't even open my eye. And I wish death could come just now and the death is coming. Making me spend nearly 29 hours. That is madness, you're right? And what we do for that? Nothing. And people walk away with $16 million off a summit they had nothing to do with. You see? So I just say Trinidad is not really a real place. Because if this is a real place, people will come out and protest for the right thing. Right? Or I just say to myself, maybe our marching had to take place in the month of March, not in February, not in January. Maybe that not the marching month. Do you understand what I'm saying? We have a kind of dotish kind of people here, boy. I wonder how we living, boy, how we get up on morning and facing we own children in the house. I know here a man say on the news when they close down this place, how much people they say they fire in some club or some kind of thing, right? He said he had only $6 and he worked there for 35 years. So I said, well, what kind of thing I could really hear? A man working in a place for 35 years and not the place closed down, you only have $6. He said his wife had to mind him now. Well, what you doing working in a place like that for 35 years and you have no saving? Something wrong somewhere, boy. What kind of people we really is? So no, Marvin Gonzalo running him out how they hire how much 400 workers in Wasa. Okay. And it will cost the taxpayers so much money. And then in the same voice, quarreling how they fire workers. How much 30,000 workers gone. And now they hire some annual vex. I really don't really understand, Mr. Nelson, what kind of people we really is. So now you vex the CPEC workers. Now they have 400 workers in Wasa. You said that wrong. Because it's taxpayers' money have to pay for that. So when this government could do right for Marvin Gonzalez and them, boy, Mr. Nelson, you tell me that. When this government could do right.
Well, if you want a direct answer, I want to say for them, the government will never be able to do right because for them, the government is preventing them from acquiring office to do us harm.
Right. That is what I want to hear. Yes. I'm glad to hear that. So let somebody else talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much. Well, I was making the intervention or the observation about the level of intelligence of the callers, and I think that speaks volumes. The level of consciousness, and I brought this particular item to be discussed tonight because, as I said on the ground report this morning, I identified. We call him a sort of a bane, a sort of a devil's advocate. That might be the better term to use. And he said that the government was not informing, and maybe if they inform, the people will be better able to absorb and to understand. And he claims to be from my observation and my own assessment, to be someone who is accurate, who is knowledgeable, who is aware of current events and historical events as well. And then he made the fatalistic mistake for me when he identified what he was getting at by indicating that the government, for example, did not say that they would have the increases that eventually would have been implemented insofar as the traffic laws are concerned. And then I said, but wait now, this was outlined in a budget, and the whole parliament debated that particular budget, where these measures would have been ventilated. And how come you could now come to the conclusion that the government did not mention or did not project to the population these policies and programs that he is saying has come to the population like a thief in the night? And I had to wonder, and I had to recoil, and I had to go into the deep recesses of my mind. And then I realized that not only was he hollow, and not only was he, and I don't want to say that he was dishonest, but I want to say that he was either misinformed or has drawn his own conclusion because he didn't watch the parliamentary channel. Of course, everybody don't watch it, and therefore the argument on the Gong report was that the government has to do better to, of course, extract these discussions, these dialogue, these debates, package it in a way, and of course have it disseminated on different platforms, including, of course, the corridor transformation, real media, etc. As we try to capture every, or put another way, go into every nook and cranny, so that that kind of statement that is purely not factual, I don't want to say that he was dishonest, I don't want to say that he lied, but the fact is we had concluded that the government ought to do more to get that message in every new, and of course all kinds of suggestions came up. The urban music, or the urban stations, the platforms that young people gravitate to, whether it be TikTok, whether it be, of course, Facebook, or the others, Instagram, etc. And maybe that should be the focus. But of course, he was factually wrong when he said that there was no kind of projection to the population of those measures that would have been taken, when all of it would have been encapsulated and captured in the debate consequential of the reading of the budget for 2026, 2027. Or 2025-26, sorry. Let's go to the lines. A pleasant good night, or welcome to the corridor.
A pleasant good night again to each and every one of you listeners.
Yes.
So, Uncle Lennox,
Right.
yeah, you see that topic you're talking about?
Yeah.
And that conversation? That is to say clearly, he listened to the post-cabinet meetings, and he listened to the debate at the PNM while they was talking in the parliament. Because here what's going on. For the last 15 years, You every day God give you a drip of energy and life in you. You have this program running in the community, and now you're on social media, the communal social media. What is your purpose at doing this tonight? Is to educate and bring the news, the work, be it of the government or the opposition. You bring it to the forefront. And I can't come and talk tonight and say, Uncle Lennox, the rubbish truck didn't pick up the rubbish in Avantil. Yes, you're the UNC bad. Oh, because you know why? The UNC power. But you see, if people know that it's a corporation, a city corporation, and where is the geographic boundary, and where they capture, and who the different agencies is in charge of different goods and services, because as a citizens of the republic, most of us, right, does not take the time to educate and go and find the source of information to verify it. That is why mainstream media, every minute, you can hear the PNM saying something on their platforms and their institutions. Not one day you hear programs that we get a boat to replace the sea bridge immediately, without any campaign, and bring distress to the people. But you're hearing that a mishap with a bigger vessel, with a bigger draft, in a narrow stream in Tobago, when they was dredging it. Ask all of them who just talk, like that same fella who gave that information, right? When they was dredging it, what the geologists and the engineers came up with, they say it can only take a certain size of vessel. That is why they built a jetty to go out in the sea, in the depth of the water, to catch bigger vessels like the Royal Daltons and them. So you see, when people know and they're not keeping in touch, right? That's why that computer and book. But what I want to ask him, constitution reform, the PNM don't want that. And it's plain to see that equal proportion representation of the people to put them in parliament, which by the independent senator and the PNM are going to change that to take away the Muslim people and bullying and to get away in parliament to get back in power. You're seeing that if you don't go to and get reliable information, that is why a set of stupidities they could come out and say that Christmas Eve, Christmas night, All Year's Day, them is not working days for a government. Oh, the country shut down and closed down and everything pack up and we wait. That was Carnival. What we supposed to do? Pack up everything and don't do nothing and wait till after Carnival. Then everybody don't work and don't spend money in grocery. Don't drink no water. The idiotics. But you see, the nice thing about it, when we let people speak without researching and doing things, and they want to push their own narrative to support, you see, a lot of things are noticed. I vote for UNC, but I don't like how to do it. But they see, they won't question it and see where that the PNM had the merit points. And then they're charging the same merit points, you have to pay a fine. So without that, they rather give you they rather get a demerit points, lose the license, and have nothing to come in. But now they're saying it's hard. You can't make a day work. So you're doing things illegally and breaking the law. Don't want to pay taxes. Since in Eric William days, the mighty power sing, the doctor say, when you earn, you have to pay. But you see, when the finance minister, and I will leave over this because it's time for you to go to take a nap to get the ability to sleep. When the finance minister Mr. Demola Tanku, right?
Yes,
And
right.
after he read the budget, he said that the supplementary and all appropriation of tobacco and other, right, the bill to amend it. Marvin Gonzalez, who was a national security minister for a month and ain't so long in office yet, right? He said no, right? And then he said it and said no, they will debate that separate. And they put it out for the following Friday. And the following Friday come and they put it off to the following Friday that it to be announced. And they come back and they sit in the parliament for the amendment of custom and excise and duties and all other taxes. It was put in the Hansard. So tonight, who is listening, I want them to see, go to the Hansard and get it right there. So when people want to come out and follow the propaganda, because just imagine, just celebrate 70 years of ruling people and bullying them and keeping them in poverty. How much people attended and how much constituencies celebrate the PNM supporters, how much they bring this celebration to the constituency for the people. They treat them like dogs. So Uncle Lennox, I could go on and on and on, but time is running out and you have to get your beauty sleep. So
Yes, man.
anytime you talk about them fellas and them, and Andy Lucky didn't take my call this morning. Good night. Sweet dreams.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my friend. I just want to just add quickly because yes, we are running out of time. I said we'll complete at 9:30. But I want to say among the other measures that is noteworthy is that of the bank levy. Notice that they increased the taxes on banks. They did something with respect to electricity, but for commercial users. Of course, we reached the stage where we are talking about landlord, rental, true landlord, palpable, tactile, in your face, can feel and see, as opposed to something that is concocted or in your imagination that you have to say, assume the rental value, and then it is across the board for everybody as far as the PNM way of generating taxes is concerned. The point I am making, of course, the present administration looked at what is called sin tax as well, alcohol, but at the same time took the opportunity to say young people whose development mentally may not be as mature as one would like at the age of 18. So they move the alcohol consumption in a public place of young people to, of course, age 20. All of those shows meticulous thinking and not reckless and for popularity. You do that, and even when it is popular as far as the PNM is concerned, and I'm talking here now about decriminalizing marijuana, you saw where the other arm or the ultimate intent, which was to not only have people who would have had a conviction against them for maybe one stick of marijuana, etc., or within the legal confines that the law would have prescribed. You see that too has failed. How many of these persons who would have been convicted of having marijuana of the size that is now considered to be decriminalized, how many of them have gotten those convictions removed? You see what the PNM does in generating those draconian and in that particular case populist policies is to always look at things through a myopic lens and then engage in what is called tunnel vision. And the ultimate and the conclusion is always some disaster. They always hit up against not a brick wall, not a stone wall, but a steel wall all the time. We see that in their crime policy. As soon as the Anaconda Baghdad, and of course, even designated crime as a what? As a public health issue, spending our monies, and then of course you have an escalation or an exponential increase in murders consistently and consecutively every year. And the only dent is when the UNC came into office in 2025. Mind you, some of those murders that eventually form the final figure for 2025 would have come from taking over from the PNM, or put another way, in that transition period. Because remember, they came in April. So you had January, February, and so on. But yet still, you had only 300 and I think 37 murders, a 44% decrease since 2014. I say a 44% decrease in murders for 2025, and that has not occurred since 2014. Why am I focusing or emphasizing 2014? You see, in 2014, the UNC was in government as well. So we see that there is a clear nexus as to when the PNM is in government, murders exponentially increase. And we could take it, of course, from when the NAR was in office. And by 1991, they limited office under PNM onslaught, talking about, of course, a dragon on the Red House and the Baptist community supporting that hogwash. And then, of course, as soon as they got into office, some 12 persons died from food poisoning in the St. Anne's Infirmary or the St. Anne's Asylum. Showing you how these people are so damn insincere and are so power mongers. The power hungry, and that they are so damn reckless and brutal. And it reminds me, as I would normally say, spiritual wickedness in high places. That is what the PNM has demonstrated. And so the arguments that the present administration is not consulting sufficiently or not delivering information for adequate assimilation and decision making and peace of mind, I want to say tonight that if there is a need for more, then action should be taken. If after tonight the government feels and is convinced that their efforts at informing the population is deficient, inadequate, because of the potency and reckless behavior of the PNM in projecting whatever agenda that they have to try to get into office to do us harm, then those actions must be taken by the present government to disabuse and to make certain that this cesspool, this putrid, this Kobo-like, this political predator, an opportunistic political parasites under the PNM, an organization that has metamorphosized into a criminal enterprise. One caller rightly talked about where the damn money came from for the construction of that monstrosity. Blood money is all in red, called Balize House. They are not going to account. The question is where the money would have come from if they were in office, and we can't see it. To tell us that something that never functioned, never was born, the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, is to insult our intelligence. What we know for sure, that they have a track record of misinformation, incompetence, missing of $3 billion, and say that it is not just so, and the Privy Council asking the Minister of Finance then, Imsbert, listen, why didn't you initiate an investigation against yourself? Or put another way, why did the government then? But it is a conspirators group of individuals that have no claim to somehow created employment. However, they were able to destroy in a double whammy scenario, in a double jeopardy scenario, closed down Petrotrin, and was a major provider of foreign exchange, and created increasing and up to the 28th of April foreign exchange shortages because of the mothballing of the Point-a-Pierre oil refinery that Imbert said was a what? A net earner of foreign exchange. A net earner of what? Foreign exchange. Close it down. And when the Ukraine war came, you saw Rowley saying we got an increase, of course, without having to increase production, but the money itself per barrel was so increased that we got a windfall of $8 billion. But the deception and the criminalistic behavior, whether it's political or otherwise, but I say if you have orchestrated, whether advertently or inadvertently, and you had the awesome responsibility as Prime Minister and head of government through a political organization to call the PNM, and you said nothing about the oil refinery, but Biden, when he was president in the United States, mentioned about the windfall and the avalanche of profits that oil refiners were making in the United States. This wicked, this diabolical, this Luciferian, this reckless, this misogynic, this obscene and absurd Prime Minister would focus, because it is popular for them, because it will increase their political stocks, so to speak. Talk about the increase in revenue consequential of the Ukraine war when it started, Ukraine-Russian war, and spoke glowingly about the avalanche or the windfall of over $8 billion, that he then said, listen, I could give the public servants an additional 1% on the 2 or 3% that they had offered them, but neglected to tell us what would have been the windfall if the oil refinery at Pointe-à-Pierre was in operation. Criminal behavior. To what? To dispossess us of what normally and regularly would have been a tremendous benefit for Trinidad and Tobago. They would have gotten out of office anyway, but at least the UNC would have had a less in terms of quantum reserve, or put another way, a greater reserve in the treasury of the country, rather than the 5 billion they should have. It's possible that they could have gotten close to 8 billion, 9 billion when they got into office. But because of the criminal nature of the last administration, and all of them are culpable, all of them who are in opposition today as well, have to take that responsibility. None of us must take the chance with these people again. None of us. I have a video to play, but with, of course, this fella, Amory Brown. But I'll do it on Saturday, because I want to reinforce what they were saying prior to the capture of Maduro and the fear-mongering that they were engaged in an attempt to sanitize themselves. It had nothing to do with you, you know. It had nothing to do with any concern for Maduro and them, you know. It was about trying to make the PNM fool you and to deflect attention away from them by talking about the radar. Yeah, talking about what? Joining those that say the area should be a zone of peace. Remember that? We're going to deal with that on Saturday. And so, of course, we have come to the end. It's now 9:38. Let me see, make sure. Yeah, 9:38. So I said we'll be here until 9:30. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless. And see you, of course, tomorrow morning on the ground report, Andy and myself, on Talk City 91.1. Yes, we are there from 6 to 9. And we'll continue, I'm sure, with issues like this, because it is important that we disabuse and we call out. And I think it's important that we looked at nostalgically what we threw behind our backs, what we dismissed. What we said was pernicious, evil, wicked, diabolical, and dangerous for Trinidad and Tobago. A cesspool of individuals whose toxicity is so virulent that never again. And the Balizé House, for which they cannot account, even though they were in the red of $5 million when Rowley came into office in 2015, owing $5 million, but suddenly in less than 10 years, they were able to get $100 million to build that monstrosity that is today a standing monument as to witness never again the PNM. Never again must these people be allowed to exercise profligacy and exercise dangerous anti-democratic behavior and, of course, destructive economic policies that has left the present administration no choice but to take measures. And even in those circumstances, you see that they have always been eclectic, making sure that the poor man is not affected. I understand the situation with your PC pep and so on, and there is a rationality, but it's little pain now for a beautiful, what I consider to be not too distant future. Best you do it now, and by the end of the year, I say the middle of this year, we should be seeing some very favorable, close to zero unemployment levels. Having put all of the diversification and other measures in place to treat it up, apart from having that past administration under the PNM account for the misdeeds that they have perpetrated on the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Let's get some volume on that particular piece. Yes, indeed. Let's go here.
With my hand, I find some of them they living too long, and every 5 years is the same old song. Some of them dead just shame to lie down, so I prepare for them a burial ground. Rowley, my first grave for he, with joy in my heart, put him down with me. All of them useless politician, only making up numbers in my island. Al-Rari, I refuse body, I leave them Muslim, them to deal with me. Big smile on their face and with maybe a hand, it's time to move trash from out of this land. In but I taking my time with he, I personally will prepare his body. Make sure he have a sardonic grin on his face. That's all he does do, that man is a waste. Bury me in the back of my cemetery, turn the upside down, he face I can see. Look for the strongest grave, dig up to cover he. Not with the hand, put good fork on him. Gypsy, political grasshopper. I have a political cemetery. It's not for people like you and me. It is for all them politicians. And I dig in the grave, no fork with my hand. I find some of them they living too long, and every 5 years is the same old song. Some of them dead just shame to lie down, so I prepare for them a burial ground. Rowley, my first grave for he, with joy in my heart, put him down with me. All of them useless politician, only making up numbers in my island. Al-Rari, I refuse body, I leave them Muslim, them to deal with me. Big smile on their face and with maybe a hand, it's time to move trash from out of this land. In but I taking my time with he, I personally will prepare his body. Make sure he have a sardonic grin on his face. That's all he does do, that man is a waste. Bury me in the back of my cemetery, turn the upside down, he face I can see. Look for the strongest grave, dig up to cover he. Not with the hand, put good fork on him. Gypsy, political grasshopper, I may feel little pity cause he's my brother. But like Tarzan, he's swinging from vine to vine. It's time I help you to make up your mind. Fitzgerald, Rasta City, I know they go glad to get the body. Resi on beat and don't fall to sea. Drink 2 beers and watch Coco get happy. I don't care all who go vex with me, but Kamala I not ready to bury. She's a strong, determined woman like me, and deserve a chance to run this country. When